Hello everybody, my name is Ickkarus and welcome to my new series, Learning Astronomy via Minecraft. And I'm just floating out here in space, not much around, and today we're going to be learning about the solar system and mainly focusing on just the distances of our solar system and trying to put it in a little bit of perspective for everybody. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I've been interested and fascinated by astronomy since a very young age, and I think that it's good to get a bit of perspective on the reality of our tiny existence here, and I think it's a good medium for Minecraft. A lot of younger people play it, and maybe they can get into astronomy too. And if you guys have any questions as we go along, leave a comment in the video. I'll be happy to answer best of my knowledge. If not, I can find out. Just as long as you're interested in it, that's all I care about, and hopefully you'll learn something. Now we'll go ahead and get started here. I am currently floating around our wonderful sun. It's my favorite star. And what I did to keep everything into a workable distance with Minecraft, I made the blocks, Minecraft block, equal 10 million miles or 16 million kilometers for everybody outside of America. And I just did 10 million. I know kilometers is the standard for astronomy. It would be the standard for distance, and Kelvin would be the standard for temperature. But what I'm going to do is just kind of keep it down to earth. I will down to earth per se. I'll use the distances and temperatures that we have heard about and we work with in our everyday lives. I want to keep it as simple and as informative as possible. That being said, one block equals 10 million miles, and that equaled pretty nicely with the math that I was doing to be very workable with Minecraft, and to show a little bit of perspective just how large our solar system is and how small we are compared to it. I'm not going to go much past the solar system. It goes even our solar system is a small blip of nothingness on the actual size of our galaxy, and our galaxy is a small blip on the actual size of the universe, and so on and so forth. But to get a little perspective of how big 10 million miles is, this is a 3x3 block, our sun right here. And so if our sun was just one of these blocks, 10 million by 10 million, across the surface of that one block could fit in real life 11.7 suns across that 10 million mile distance. So if you can imagine 1/10 of a block being the size of the sun, then that's the true size compared to the 10 million mile distance I set out. Now, as far as the planets and everything, they're not going to be accurate to scale. I'm more focusing on distance and just random facts today. Distance is a whole other thing. Trying to comprehend miles and all that stuff. I try to shrink it down as little as possible so you guys can work it in your head, and hopefully you can wrap your brains around that number. Now, we'll go ahead and get started on our trip here to the closest planet, and that would be Mercury. Bam! And there it is, Mercury. It is about 35.4 million miles, or let's see, 57 million kilometers away from the Sun, which equals out to about 3.5 blocks average. Now each planet, it varies from the closest to the farthest. I did the average between those. So here we are at Mercury, and I'm gonna put down a little bit of facts here. Got a sign ready. Mercury. Okay, so it is 35.4. Ooh, I better watch what I'm doing. 35.4 million miles. 57 million kilometers from our Sun. And some quick facts about Mercury. Well, it's the only terrestrial planet consisting of 70% metals, which means basically it's a big iron circle with a thin layer of silicon material, which would be rocks. So it has a very large core, and they're not sure why it's such a high iron content. They think earlier in the forming of the solar system it just got bombarded and all the crust got knocked off and eventually swallowed by the Sun, so it's just left with a very large iron core. And we're gonna move on to our next planet, not that far away and traveling 10 million miles per second. And we're at Venus. There she is, Venus. Venus is about 67.1 million miles from the Sun, and that's about 108 million kilometers. And I'm going to go ahead and type that up, and while I'm doing, I'll just bust out some facts for you. Of course, I can't do two things at once. Alright, so Venus is similar to Earth in size and mass, and the planet interior is fairly similar as well. But that's where the similarities end. It is really a she-devil. It's the hottest planet in our solar system, and its greenhouse effect gone wild. And it's basically hell. And so we got million miles, and that's 108 million kilometers. Alright, so we got first two planets down, and what planet could be next? I wonder. Ah, there she is, Mother Earth. And there we sit. Yeah, we're about 93.2 million miles, 150 million kilometers. Everybody knows that one. And cool fact, at this distance it takes 8 minutes for the Sun's light to get to Earth, traveling 186,000 miles per second. That's the speed of light. So just you know, just thinking about the 10 million miles, if you were traveling 186,000 miles per second, the speed of light to travel that 10 million miles, it would take 53.8 seconds. So, as you can imagine, it's these are great distances. You know, just trying to give you the facts to see if you can wrap your head around it. It is, you know, quite a distance, and the Earth here, if you don't know, is 4.6 billion years old. We have a diameter of about 7,926 blocks, and that's about 12,756 kilometers. And if Earth was going to be put up against the 100 million mile or not 100 million, 10 million mile block, there would be 1,262 Earths that could fit across just one side of it. So that's, you know, not including everything in the middle. And I think what I'm going to do is type the stuff first and then talk about it, because it's really distracting me. I can't do two things at once. So we got Mercury, Venus, Earth down, and we're on to the next terrestrial planet, and let's head there now. And we got Mars, the planet that's fascinated all of us for so long. Mars sits at 141.6. Oop, I better put Mars down first in case you don't know what I'm talking about. 141.6 million miles, and that is 228 million kilometers. Now, some cool things about Mars: it does have a thin atmosphere, and still a chance we could find life. From the past, there has been liquid running water at some point on the Martian surface, and of course Curiosity is there now, looking for such things, and also kind of just testing the soil and the atmosphere, trying to look for conditions that would aid in sending people there. So all we gotta do is get from there to there, people. Let's do it. It's not that far. Not that far at all. It actually is pretty far. So we'll move on here, and now we start getting into greater distances. Alright, and we have arrived at our next stop, and we are at the Asteroid Belt. Lies in between Mars and Jupiter, and I'm going to try not to break up any asteroids this time. I'm not playing the game. So let's see here. The Asteroid Belt, it's about 200. Asteroid Belt, 251 million miles. And 251, that's 404 million kilometers from the sun. Oop, didn't want to go there. That's okay. And some cool stuff about the asteroid belt, of course. We have found Ceres, which is classified as a dwarf planet. It's the largest of all asteroid objects. It's about 590 miles across, 950 kilometers. And basically the asteroid belt are leftover scraps that kind of lie between the sun and Jupiter's gravity. Didn't have enough quite to get rounded up by the terrestrial planets, and wasn't far enough out to get wrangled up by Jupiter. But Jupiter's gravity and the sun's gravity kind of keep it in a nice little area. You know, even though this might depict the asteroid belt as having clumps of rock very close together, it's actually very few and far between, contrary to popular culture and imagery that we have of the asteroid belt. So yeah, if you were in a spaceship flying through the asteroid belt, you'd never even know it. Alright, and on to our next planet, and this is quite a distance here. Now when you're traveling 10 million miles per second, and here we are. Jupiter, the gas giant's almost would-be wannabe star. And Jupiter is, get the sign down first. Jupiter is 484 million miles, which would be 779 roughly million kilometers away from our star. So that's pretty far away, guys. some cool things about Jupiter. It's 318 times larger than Earth, and that means, it's big. Let's just say that. Like, I'm not going to go into comparing those right now. However, Jupiter does have 63 moons, and 4 of the largest are very interesting, almost more interesting than the planet itself. 4 largest: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Io being interesting because it's very volcanically active. It's the most volcanically active, I'm not going to say planet, thing in our solar system. And of course Europa, which is a big hot topic for possible life. Now, Europa is basically a big ice cube that has liquid water underneath it. Under about 1 mile of ice, they're saying it could be a vast ocean, because the tidal forces between the other moons and the tidal force of Jupiter pulling and stretching on the core generates heat. Friction equals heat. Everybody knows that. So that's going to be very interesting in the next 10 to 20 years to see if they plan anything going out there. It'd be very awesome to see. As Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of my favorite astrophysicists, says,
I want to go ice fishing on Europa. I want to melt down through the surface and put a little submersible, look around, see if anything swims up and licks the lens. That's what I want to do.
And that would be pretty awesome. Alright, let's move on. Gonna go to the jewel of the solar system. Whoop. And here we are. And there she is, Saturn. Doesn't necessarily look like Saturn. I tried to do the best I could. It looks a little bit more yellowy than I wanted. I want a little bit more blues in there. Anyways, go ahead and put this down. Saturn. Saturn lies about 888 million miles away from the Sun. Oop, not smiles, miles. 888, that's 1.43 billion kilometers. So we're starting to double our distances here just by each planet. And some cool things about Saturn, it also has 62 moons. I know Jupiter has 63, but it has my favorite moon in our solar system, and that would be Titan. I love Titan. Basically, Titan has a pretty dense atmosphere. It's so cold there that it has lakes and running liquid methane, and it rains liquid methane, and that is cold, people. To get methane to turn into a liquid, that is cold. Some really cool things about Saturn itself, though. It is less dense than water, and it's the only object less dense than water in our solar system. So if you could put a little lake right here and set it on there, it would float. It'd be the only one floating. I think that's pretty cool. It also spins so fast that the poles are squished, so it's not a perfect circle. It spins so fast that it's squishing the planet down into more of like a, I don't know what you call that, not a donut necessarily. But another cool thing too, there is a storm at the top of Saturn that is in an octagon shape. I think it's an octagon anyways, and it's a blue, I believe it's actually on the bottom pole. But it's very interesting, that storm, and that's something that I look forward to hearing more about in the future. And we are going to move on and going great distances now, doubling every time. Oop. And that'd be so nice to have a spaceship that flies this fast. And there she is, Uranus. or Uranus, depending on how you say it. God, I'm mature. And Uranus is, gotta think about this one. 1.8, and we're in the billions, people. Billion miles, or calculate 2.88 billion kilometers away from our sun. And that is far. Uranus also has 27 moons. You know, each one has a lot, not quite as much as Saturn or Jupiter, but it does have the moons, and the methane in the atmosphere actually causes it to have this bluish green tint color on there, and it is actually tipped to its side. So it spins going this way around, and the poles are pointed towards the sun. So we are getting pretty far out here. Yeah, so the poles point this way and that way, which is very strange. And that's because the magnetic field is tilted 60 degrees from the axis of the rotation. So what that means is that the field is tilted so much that it actually turns the axis of the planet on its side. I thought that's pretty cool. And of course, Uranus has rings, and Saturn is well known for its rings, but Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all have rings, believe it or not. And we are going to back it up and zoom out to Neptune. Far, far away. Went too far. And here he is. Neptune. How are you today? Another one of my favorite planets. Titan, or not Titan, I say Titan for Neptune, I meant Neptune. Alright, so didn't want to do that yet. Alright, Neptune is very far, 2.8 billion miles, and 4.5 billion kilometers away. And that is for 280 blocks from the sun. So going with the 10 million miles, that's 280 blocks away. And some cool things about Neptune: it's the only planet that was predicted using math alone before it was actually observed. So some math elite way back in the day, early 1800s, mathematically predicted that Neptune was there before they actually saw it. It's pretty cool. It has the strongest winds, I believe, in our solar system, about 1,200 miles per hour, I believe, and that's pretty fast. It's like, I believe, let's see, yeah, 2,000. Yeah, that's almost exactly 2,000 kilometers per hour. It's blue because of the methane, just like Uranus. It is just a lot more methane to absorb the red from the sun's light. So that's why it's so blue and awesome. And as I said, it does have rings too. And now that is the 8th and final planet of our solar system. However, we are not done. We are going to Pluto, formerly known as a planet. And Pluto is a weird one. Oh, getting close. Hello, Pluto. I'm the first one to ever see you this close. Pluto's actually cool, though. Even though it's not a planet anymore, it is the king of a new type of object, which would be a dwarf planet. Kuiper Belt object, depending on what you see there. And the average distance, I mean, the closest it is to the Sun is actually below the orbit of Neptune, and the furthest point away is almost 2 billion kilometers past that. So it has a very elliptical orbit. It's very sideways. It doesn't fall on the plane of the plane of the ecliptic, which is the plane that all the planets reside on. It's tilted very far off that. The average distance is about 3.7 billion miles, and let's see, what is that? 5.9 roughly billion kilometers. And that's far. That is far. Okay, so you know, Pluto, very small, icy, very far out, barely gets enough sunlight, barely. Yeah, so we'll move on. We are not done, believe it or not, people. We are gonna go even further out to one of my favorite named planets. Not planets, dwarf planet, and that is Makemake. Hello, Makemake. Out here in your Kuiper Belt, mind your own business, crashing your party. So Makemake is pretty cool. It's a dwarf planet as well. It is 4.26 billion miles, and that is 6.9-ish billion kilometers from the Sun. And out here we are 426 blocks away from the Sun. So we are on the outer reaches of the solar system. It's very cold, duh. Makemake is. It's about roughly negative 406 degrees Fahrenheit, or negative 240 degrees Celsius. And it's actually mostly all ice of methane and ethane. And it's pretty cool when it's closer to the Sun. It has one of those elliptical orbits just like Pluto does, and when it's closer it warms the dwarf planet up enough. They think, this is hypothetical, but I think it's cool, so I'm going to tell you anyways. But they think it warms the planet up enough to release the methane and ethane as gases into the air, so it creates a small atmosphere on the dwarf planet, and then when it goes back further out, it freezes and it falls as methane and ethane snow. Pretty badass. Pretty badass. I would not want to have methane snowing on me, but that's for another day, and we are still not done yet. Oh boy, look at that thing all the way out there. Alright, here we come to another Kuiper Belt object, and the near edge of our solar system. This is Eros. It's a dwarf planet. It is larger than Pluto. Oh man, we are so far away. We can barely see Neptune from here. I would not want to be stuck out here, guys. Eros. Eros is 6.3 billion miles from the Sun. That is 10.2-ish billion kilometers. And that we are 630 blocks away, guys, from the Sun. Traveling 10 million miles per second, pretty much walking speed. And we are far, far out here. Alright, so as I said, it's the edge of the solar system, and it is larger than Pluto. It has a diameter roughly about 1,490 miles, or 2,400 roughly kilometers. And it was almost the 10th planet, almost named, so close. And but they actually decided to classify it as a dwarf planet, and that led to obviously the demise of Pluto, since Eros was bigger and Pluto was smaller, and they were both roughly the same thing. Makemake was found later, but they're all in their own on their own class of planets, dwarf planets, and they like to be cold. Code. So guys, if you believe it, we are not done yet though. Again, this is the edge of the solar system that we know of. Going this way, it's all hypothetical, but it is cool. I'm gonna get my rocket ship boots on, and we're gonna go to the Oort Cloud. Let's go. Almost there. Now that is a long trip. A long trip indeed. Oh my goodness. Came out here just for these little things here. Little pieces of dust and ice and rock. We are at the hypothetical Oort Cloud. Oort Cloud. Guys, believe it or not, we are 4.6 trillion guys, miles. That's 7.5 trillion kilometers. We are a light year from the sun, and in Minecraft blocks, that is 460,000 blocks, guys. We're out here on our own in the cloud. Dust, rocks, ice, that hypothetically, again, I'm going to say hypothetically because there's no way of really proving it's there. It's just a hypothesis, and what it is just a big cloud of this stuff that surrounds our solar system, just barely hanging on to the sun's gravity, even 1 light year out of here. We are almost 1/4 of the distance to Alpha Centauri, our closest star, way out there in the distance out there. And I'm not sure if I want to travel that far, but yeah, we are far out here, guys. Pretty much stuck out here because too lazy to get my rocket boots back out. So we're gonna find a home in the Oort Cloud, and we are gonna sip on some iced teenies and live out the rest of our days. But this is the first of many episodes I have an idea of bringing the universe down into Minecraft scale to hopefully wrap your head around. I think that block looks cool, kind of against the stars here. So let me know what you guys think. I am really curious and excited for this series. I'm hoping that I can teach everybody a little bit, about our solar system, space, and the universe, and have a little fun while doing it. So I will talk to you guys next time, and thank you for watching so much. Have a great night.